one of the things I love about Disney is that while we can all agree that it is, by definition and by copyright, the most magical place on Earth, we may not always agree on everything about it. And if you've ever been on the internet, you know that when it comes to Disney, the opinions are endless and often quite passionate, which gave me an idea. And this week, we're going to try something new. We're going to test this idea on the fly and kick our conversation up a little bit of a notch and get into some fun, possibly even controversial discussion points. From the parks to the resorts, from cruise line to the movies and Disney Plus, we're going to have some fun exploring topics that I'm sure you have an opinion on as well. And don't worry, I want you to be part of the conversation as I will post some of these questions in the clubhouse. So I'm going to introduce a new segment I am calling Disney In or Out. And I'll explain exactly what that is. And joining me this week are friends, members of the WDW Radio Nation and communities. Ladies first, I want to welcome back to the show Lisa Donato-Glassner from ThousandCircles.com.
Thank you so much for having me.
And, oh my God, Connor, I forgot your new website. And Connor Brown from
VacationKingdoms.com.
That's it. That's the one. It used to be something else. It used to be
WDW Opinion, which is ironic because we're going to be sharing a lot of opinions right now. I changed the name to Vacation Kingdoms to be more holistic, and then I get the invite to talk about opinions. It's funny how the world works, but I'm here nonetheless and happy.
So maybe I wasn't right. Maybe I was inspired by you. It just took a little while for it to finally kick in, like caffeine from Dunkin' Donuts. So both of you, welcome to a show where you literally have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. Thank you for the trust. Or you just had a boring Monday night. You somehow agreed to join me for a show, probably because I promised you that there was zero prep time, but because there's nothing for you to actually prep for. So why did you say yes, right? Why were you intrigued by the idea, or what was it?
It just sounded like a fun conversation. Like I said before we started recording, I feel like this is the kind of show where like an hour after we hang up, I'm going to think of all of the things that I should have said. But setting that aside, like it just sounds like a fun conversation, and I'm excited to see where things go. And I know like opinions tend to differ among us, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you said you gave us, no need to prep, but that's because you gave us no prep time. You said, would you like to join? Great, here's the link. And 5 minutes later, here we are.
Which is not that far from the truth. So I had this idea really, really late last night in a Dorito-filled frenzy. I had this idea, and then I sort of thought about it today, and I'm like, is this a cool idea? Is this a dumb idea? And I started writing down some of the questions, and I said, hey, are you guys interested? Good, let's record tonight. And so here we are. And in addition to Lisa and Connor, I want to hear from you, our friend who's listening. I want to hear your thoughts on these, whether you agree, disagree, or have your own hot takes on some of these topics. I'll post them in the clubhouse. You, like Lisa, as soon as we're done recording, can also call the voicemail with your own opinions at 407-900-9391. So let me explain to you what the concept is and what hopefully the execution of it is going to be. The idea is that I'm going to not ask you a question, but I'm going to make a statement. And then you tell me whether you agree, you're in, or not, you're out. And then take 30 to 60 seconds-ish to state why, argue or defend your position, etc. So, for example, I might say, the Boathouse is the best restaurant in Walt Disney World. We then go around the virtual table, and you say whether you agree and why or why not. And then, Lisa will argue why she thinks Tony's Town Square is really the best restaurant in Walt Disney World. So this could be fun. It could be slightly controversial, hopefully funny. I have prepared a lot of questions that you will actually randomly select from in order to keep it interesting. And then we will see where this potential train wreck takes us.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Let's go.
So I believe in ladies first. I narrowed my list down to 60 questions. So Lisa, you can randomly pick a number from 1 to 60, and that will be the statement that I pull out, that you will either say that you are in, out, and then explain why.
I will take what's behind door number 2, please.
Look at you go. 2. Fascinating. This is actually somewhat appropriate based on recent conversations and nation calls. So question 2, or statement 2, in or out, the Carousel of Progress is an untouchable attraction and should never be replaced.
So I'm out. I'm out, but there's 2 parts of the question, right? It should never be replaced, like, period. It's an institution in the parks. It's a piece of Walt. Like, he had a hand in it. It came straight from the World's Fair. It's like I think the most visited or most played stage show like ever in the history of time, because it basically just continuously goes all day long. So it should never be replaced. That being said, it certainly could stand a little updating in certain scenes. I mean, you could do a lot of things with the first scene. You could make the last scene. You could make the last scene some sort of like permanent, futuristic scene or permanent, state of the world at some point. But if you're still purporting to represent the future, I think we could have some fun with that final scene. Leave the other stuff. Don't touch the other stuff. Leave Uncle Orville in the bathtub. Leave the mystery ghost daughter like doing the wheel, washing the clothes in the first scene. But the last scene, I think definitely like they could be having a lot more fun with and updating, and like, watching Grandma play a very sort of low quality VR doesn't feel quite as futuristic as it probably once did. So no to replacing and yes to updating.
Classic Mangello lawyerism here, coming up with 2 different questions in one and baiting us into saying, no, you can't touch it. Yeah, get it out of here. No, it's totally 2 different questions, like Lisa was saying. I mean, no, I don't think it should be replaced the entirety. I do think it should be updated, and I do think, scenes should change with it. I think the thing that I've always struggled with is at what point does that final scene become nostalgic like the other scenes before it, and at what point do we just say, you know what, there's going to be one scene and then the final scene is going to be 100 years later, or whatever that long time frame is. So I think that they could be really, really fun with it. I think it should be as outlandish as possible, right? Because it's always been on this almost on the cusp, right? Like, we do have access to these things. When it debuted, we did have access to like maybe a VR headset that was Atari level or whatever, or maybe the oven could, set to 500 degrees and burn a turkey or something like that. Those are all very much within our grasp now. So instead of just being on the cusp of the future, can it be more like the Jetsons or, insert Disney future programming here?
So I will also answer the statement. It is not untouchable, and it should never be replaced, because I think we've talked about the problem with the final scene. According to sort of the last iteration of the story of Tomorrowland, Carousel of Progress, that building was meant to be a museum for the inhabitants of Tomorrowland to go and visit, and these were sort of snapshots in time. So the 80s was meant to look like the 80s, because the problem is if you update it tomorrow, it's already going to be out of date. I don't know that is ever going to be a solvable problem if you're going to have physical sets that need to be redesigned and installed and engineered and things like that, because as soon as it finally is open, it's already going to be a little bit passé. So there's a little bit of a conundrum there, but we may see if there's another question about what attractions, if any, are in fact untouchable. So spinning the wheel, Connor Brown, randomly select a number and you go next.
19, please.
19. Okay. Tiffin's is the best in-park sit-down dining experience in all of Walt Disney World.
I just go to Nomad Lounge.
That is not the question, sir.
I just go to Nomad Lounge.
Tiffin's are you in or are you out?
Oh, Lord almighty.
In-park sit down, like an in-park table service restaurant. Lisa's excited because she's now able to take time to ask Jeeves about all the Disney in-park table service restaurants.
No, I'm list.
I'm gonna say out, for the sole reason that while I've never done it, I do have people that I trust who have said it's fantastic and you need to try in Japan, Mr. Mangello, to Kumite, right? So, I mean, I think like it's hard to put anything above that, even without ever experiencing it, solely because it's such a unique experience, and I have heard so many good things from it. And for me, it's also a struggle because when it is Tiffin's, I do mean it. I do go to Nomad Lounge, and I will probably always prefer to do that just because I like the vibe of that a little bit better. And I know that's not the question or anything like that, but that's always going to be how I frame it in that regard.
Lisa, are you in or are you out on Tiffin's?
I am out. So Tiffin's is a great restaurant, and even if we're just comparing it to other sit-down restaurants throughout the parks, Tiffin's is a phenomenal meal. But like this isn't my number one, but I would argue that you can get an equally good meal with better theming, in my personal opinion, at Skipper Canteen. Mm-hmm. That being said, I mean, Takumite exists, and it's a sit-down restaurant in the parks, so it's not even a fair competition. Like, Takumite is sort of in its own stratosphere, so to compare it to other restaurants isn't quite fair, but it's far and away the best seated meal in park in Disney. And I would probably opt for Shikisai, even Shikisai, the new izakaya in the Japan Pavilion, more often than Tiffin's, just for personal preference.
I'm with you. And that's why I didn't put Takumite as the best sit down, because I knew that would be my answer. I think it's the best overall dining experience anywhere in Walt Disney World. And I would have, if we were ever to do a show about the best dining experiences of all the Disney parks worldwide, Takumite would be in that top 5, top 3 on that list, most probably. So I'm out on it being the best sit-down dining experience. Although I think it's exceptional. I think it's like the food is very, very good in addition to the theming. But I think you're right, Connor. I'm more of a like casual service than I am a table service kind of guy. So I can sort of graze and pick and move off other people's plates. So I'm with you that I would, if I'm gonna make that long, arduous trek all the way down to Disney's Animal Kingdom, I also am gonna go to Nomad Lounge. All right, Lisa, back to you. Pick your random number.
Oh, gosh, I am gonna go with number 12. Number
12. We will stay at Disney's Animal Kingdom, where we are noshing over at Nomad Lounge. Lisa, in or out? Expedition Everest should have a fully functioning Yeti animatronic, even if it requires a 2-year closure for repairs.
I'm out. I mean, I think we're all at peace with it. It's a standing joke. It's been broken forever. Like you said, you'd literally have to like take the back wall off of the coaster to fix the Yeti, so you'd be shutting down the ride forever. I mean, let's put our attention and energy into newer things and enjoy Everest for what it is.
Now, will this 2-year refurbishment take place before the South American entrance coming to Animal Kingdom, or after? Will be in the state of flux where there's only 2 working attractions in Animal Kingdom? I, of course, have a lot of follow-up questions. In the interest of, just being different, I'm going to say I'm in. Give me the Yeti. Let's go. If this is taking place after we get our Indiana Jones and Encanto rides, and only if that occurs.
Right, if you have some, and that's why I thought when Pandora opened, I'm like, everybody's going to be looking this way, so while everybody is looking towards Pandora, we'll just quickly go in and shut down Everest, and it didn't happen. Which means it's...
I do think it's this thing of like, how many people are going to come just for that, And it's like, especially to the people that are, maybe they've only been once, 20 years ago, and they did actually see it working and they have no idea. I don't know if that's going to bring people back to the park as much as the people that were going to come who want to see the Yeti working again. They were going to come again. It's just a happy kind of accident that they've taken it down and they're redoing it.
Everest is also just already a great ride. Like, it's a phenomenal, super fun roller coaster. It's not like the main animatronic of like Tiana's Bayou Adventure is broken down, and so there's something hugely missing from the storyline. It's a great ride. Like, my kids already love it. I already love it. I don't know how much more we need to add to it. And like, you know, Yeti technology from back in the day, I don't know how impressive it would be today anyway.
So I was saying, did either of you, were you actually there those 3 weeks that the Yeti was actually working, like fully functioning?
I never saw it.
I
remember it in my heart of hearts. I swear I remember it.
Connor was 3, by the way, when it was.
Yeah. I was a tall 3-year-old. The thing is, it's one of those things where it's like, do I remember it because I remember it, or do I remember it because I watched the Travel Channel special ad nauseum on loop over and over and over again? I don't know.
Yeah, because if you saw it, that arm that came down and swung past you was very, very impressive. Like, it was it still is, it just doesn't work, a remarkable animatronic figure, and added something in a meaningful way to that attraction. But, you know, you don't know what you're missing if you've never experienced it. So I am out on this as well. I think 2 years to close an e-ticket attraction in that park, even if and when the other attractions are built in the other sections, is probably too long if it's just going to be to fix that. And while it will be impressive, you're right, it's not going to necessarily be something that's going to draw new people in. It's just going to enhance that experience, and 2 years might be too much of a trade-off for it. So, all right, who's next?
You're not picking any numbers, right?
I'm not picking any. Go ahead.
Okay. 42.
42. Let's go down the list. Let me see. 42. Okay. Let's talk Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah.
Of which the two of you I know are huge fans of. The Disney Wonder is the best overall ship in the Disney Cruise Line fleet. Are you in or are you out?
I'm dream and fantasy level kind of person. I just think I like the intimateness of the magic, right, and the wonder. I like how small it is. I really like how small it is when you go to the private islands and private destinations, because there's a whole lot less people there. That's great. But there's just something about, you know, the dream and the fantasy being a little bit bigger. The grand hall, the atrium being a little bit bigger. I think it's also one of those things where it's very easy to say, oh, well, I like this class and I like that class. And a lot of the times it just comes down to what was the first one you were on that you got accustomed to, right? As an adult, I went back on the dream class. So that's the one that I always kind of strive to get back to. So I am out on the Wonder being number one and in on the dream class ships.
Interesting. Lisa?
So this is funny because I had a feeling that some form of this question was going to be on the list, but I thought you were going to bait us by saying the Wish, even though I know you don't think that. And my answer was going to be, no, it's the Wonder. So I'm fully in. And it goes straight to what Connor was just saying about, like, whatever was your first tends to be your favorite. But also I think there's some sound reasoning behind it. So my very, very first DCL cruise was the Alaska cruise on the Wonder. So like it's just forever burned into my memory as like the most amazing experience ever. And then my second cruise on the Wonder was the New Orleans cruise, which was also incredible. But even like setting aside personal bias, like I love a small ship. I love an intimate ship. I love like the feel of the Wonder, and like the French Quarter lounge on the Wonder might be my favorite place to spend time on any Disney ship. Just like the theming of that specific area is so phenomenal. And I could, talk for far more than 30 to 60 seconds about why I love that ship, but those are the main reasons. And then add on the fact that it was my first and a fabulous, fabulous Alaska trip, and it's hard to beat.
So, Con, let me first start off by saying, as the guy who's not the tallest man in the room, bigger is not always better, young man. I am very much in on the Disney Wonder being the best overall ship. This beautiful 25, it is one of the oldest ships from a major cruise line at sea, and she's only gotten better with age. She's 25 years old, but I love everything that you said, right? I love the intimate size. I think the French Quarter Lounge is exceptional. I think Tiana's is probably, other than 1923, the best dining experience on Disney Cruise Line. Like Palo, Enchanté, I'm looking at you, and I will put Tiana's over that for just overall like vibe and experience. I love the Art Nouveau style of the Wonder even a little bit better, I think, than I like the deco style of the Magic, although I like those two in terms of the way they are decorated. I do like the smaller ships, both because of when you go to the islands, but also, when the larger ships are full, they feel full. And yeah. I never sort of felt that way on both the Magic or the Wonder. And because, too, like Lisa said, of the itineraries, I think Alaska is far and away the best itinerary on Disney Cruise Line. It's just sort of just in a class by itself. The Wonder's my favorite of the ships, and the Magic is right behind it. And then I think the Dream and the Fantasy are sort of neck and neck. That's three.
I think we might all agree on this, but here's hoping that on the 27 new ships we're getting eventually from Disney Cruise Line, we get some smaller level ones, because I don't see that happening. I think they're just going to kind of keep the same Wish level and size. I hope they do bring newer, smaller ships, because I do think it's very, very, very appealing to a lot of people, us three included. Mm-hmm.
All right, who goes next?
That would be me. I will go with number 23.
Number 23.
Jordan.
I'm sure that's why she selected it. Let's go to the movies. Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame is the most underrated animated film in their entire catalog. And I'm speaking specifically about Disney. Don't go Touchstone, don't go. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is the most underrated animated film in their entire catalog. Are you in or are you out?
So I'm going to qualify this by my just having heard this question right this second, because I could think about it for an hour and come up with something more clever. But at first, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm in. It's a phenomenal movie. It's not a movie that you see it doesn't have any presence in the parks. The characters don't really have much presence in the parks. Far and away, the most evil villain, in my opinion, in any Disney movie. Just so complicated and dark and rooted in the church, which makes it that much more complicated and that much more powerful. The characters and the music is beyond. I think the music in Hunchback, I think, is some of the best music in any of the Disney movies. First, I could think about it more and maybe come up with a couple others, Meet the Robinsons I could throw out there as being on the short list as well, and a bunch of others. But I think Hunchback is a contender for sure.
As soon as Connor starts, Lisa's going to call the voicemail and append her answer.
I take it you guys have never seen The Brave Little Toaster? Interesting.
I thought you were going to say The Good Dinosaur.
That's number one, clearly.
Mars Needs Moms. He's going with Mars Needs Moms.
Mars Needs Bombs. I think Hunchback is supremely underrated. I can't explicitly say it's the most underrated, because this is a very personal thing too, right? The thing with Disney animated films is, if it's the one that came out when you were, in that 5 to 10 age group, you're going to watch it on repeat. I had VHS when I was young. I don't know about you guys. 8-track, whatever it was, Laserdisc, those sorts of things. But my things that I would watch time and time again that I really, really loved, I think from my era that are underrated, Hercules and Tarzan, which I think it's very, very funny that Hercules having a presence coming back to Disney Cruise Line in a stage show, which I'm very, very, very excited about. I do think Hunchback, though, is very, very underrated, and I would like to see it more in the parks, especially.
Yeah. There was a Hunchback show at Disney MGM Studios, which was amazing, other than the fact that it was an open air theater and it was a little toasty in the summertime. And summertime now runs from February through November. So during the summertime months, it was a little bit of a sweat box out there, but an incredible stage show. I am very much like in on this. And as I was thinking about it after I sort of asked the question, because, you know, there was a little bit of bias when I wrote the question because I could have inserted other films in there. I agree, not just about the complexity of it. And when I talk about complexity, like very mature themes in this. Like when I say mature, I just don't mean like some of the more obvious, like there's prejudice and hypocrisy and sin. And like, this is not normally what you see in the very family friendly Disney animation. And I think it's also a very like emotionally deep film, right? The isolation of Quasimodo, the Esmeralda and her sort of, you know, fighting for her freedom. And I think Judge Claude Frollo, I've said this a million times because I mean, is the most complex, the most evil villain, but that inner torment that he goes through, again, very mature themes that are being talked about, gives this film too a much darker tone, I think, than almost anything else that I can think of just off the top of my head, which is it's in stark and I think in a good way, stark contrast to a lot of the other much more lighthearted things that we get from the animated films. Plus the Alan Menken score is just remarkable. Like Hellfire and God Help the Outcast are beautiful, beautiful films. And I think the animation is breathtakingly beautiful. I think it is incredibly striking. You can watch the film on mute and just watch it for, again, going back to the hand-drawn animation. I think I don't think it received the recognition that it deserved among the other Disney Renaissance films that I think was sort of overshadowed by these, you know, the lighter, much more commercial hits. So, and maybe it wasn't marketed appropriately at the time too. So I love Hunchback, like a lot, in case you can't tell. So we need to do another nation watch party and maybe we'll watch Hunchback. So, all right, let me get off my little Hunchback soapbox, and whoever is next, pick your number and go.
16.
16. This one is it is short and sweet, Connor Brown.
Oh.
The Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser will never open again. Are you in or are you out?
This is a double negative, so I have to think through it real quick. It will never open again. I'm out. I think it'll open again in a very, very different capacity. Obviously, like a lot of people have said, maybe it's just a day experience. Maybe you just, God forbid, walk through the lobby of a hotel, you know, something like that. I don't know. I find it so hard to believe that they're not going to use that space for something. They're very good at recycling things at Disney, very good at recycling spaces. There are places that will be abandoned for years and years behind Epcot. Next thing you know, it has so many different festival things going on or special event things or whatever. I would be so surprised if months, years from now, we just see bulldozers bulldozing that place before it, quote unquote, reopens in some other form.
Like the Dietz is in Beetlejuice, Disney never walks away from equity, but we'll see. Lisa?
So
the Star Cruiser will never open again.
So the question isn't what I want, it's what I think.
Correct.
So I would love to see the space be repurposed somehow. I would have loved, while it was open, for them to have rethought certain things, like maybe they could have given access to the restaurant, for example, to people who weren't staying there. I think there were a lot of options. I'm not second guessing decisions that were made. I don't know what happens behind closed doors or a lot of the factors, but you know, there were a lot of things I think that could have been done while it was still open to make things work a little bit better. But that being said, setting my wishes aside, and setting aside the fact that like Walt used everything, like he would have airlifted it to like the Magic Kingdom, cast member parking lot and used it for storage. Like he would have not wasted the space. But it's hard to think about, besides like if they could, make the lobby and the restaurant, be something that's open for business and then use the rest of it for office space or something. I would love to see even that happen. But it's hard to imagine beyond that, like what they could even try to do with it, because the rooms don't have windows. They're very, very small. They don't have windows. The way that it was set up was for a very specific purpose that I think is hard to repurpose. That, and then combining that with the fact that it's sort of located out of the way, the actual outer facade of it and sort of where it sits, it can't really exist within theming. It was really only themed once you were sort of inside it behind closed doors. It's hard to think of how they could usefully repurpose it. And given like the tax write-off that they took on it, I don't see it realistically happening. So while I think Walt would be rolling over and, I wish that they would repurpose it, I'm in on like a realistic prediction that it's sort of closed for good, probably.
Yeah, the problem with all the solutions is that every solution has a problem, right? You can't just open it up, because how do you get people there, right? How do you have guests park in cast member? There's nowhere for guests to park. It's not themed. Like there's like for every sort of solution, there's 101 different problems that it brings up that are not very easily solvable. I know money can solve everything, right? You can fix everything with money, but is the juice worth the squeeze for the Star Cruiser, right? You've already taken sort of taken the financial loss on it. Do you repurpose it to something else that is not front facing to guests? Never say never, but I might, again, just because of the reality of what it might take to make this be something that is fiscally responsible, attractive to guests, worth the money, I might be in. I know that I'm very sort of waffling on this, but I might be in. It will never open again the way it was, but it might not ever open again, period. And that makes me sad, because I think it was a really, really well done experience. Inside the box, it was everything else that it took to sort of make that happen. But who knows? Who knows? I would love to have more people be able to experience the storytelling that Disney put into that building. So, okay. Are we having fun yet? You like this? Is this good?
This is really fun.
I think we need some things that we're more in on. Some good things we're more in on. Let's all come on.
Listen, you guys are picking the numbers here. All right, let's do one or two more. Go ahead. I don't remember who is next.
It's Lisa.
It's me. I am going to go with, I'd hate to not use like your early ones, because I feel like that was like when you were just getting going. So I'm going to go with number 9.
Number 9. This is a relatively timely one, depending on when you're listening in the future. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is better than Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Are you in or are you out?
I am out.
Wow.
So far out.
Wow. I'm going to write this down. Lisa hates Halloween. Okay.
I love Halloween, but there is
boo to you. Wow.
There's
Nice.
I love Halloween. I love the Halloween parade. I love the Halloween in the parks, but like, give me like that crisp weather of like early November into the holidays. Like, used to be dream lights on the castle, but I'll take the projections. The parks are so beautiful. There's a sort of a sweet spot between like November and early December when it's not quite as mobbed as it usually is. The weather's just breaking. Everything looks beautiful. I love like the treats. I love like collecting cookies and hot apple cider and hot chocolate. It's not even so much about, and the parade is phenomenal too. Like I would put, the parade at Mickey's Very Merry up against Boo to You any day. I mean, they're both phenomenal. The Headless Horseman is phenomenal, but so are, the toy soldiers.
Clearly Lisa's never seen the Gravediggers or the Villains Float. It's fine. Keep going.
No, I mean, I they're both amazing, but for me, all day, it's Very Merry. Like, I just the experience of the parks during the holidays and the weather and the somewhat lower crowd levels from like mid-November into early December and just the whole vibe of everything. Like, I'm all in. I'm all in for the holidays. And also, like, it's all personal experience, right? So, like, when I was vacationing, that was sort of the party that I would usually go to with the kids. So my memories of it are very special, but still, like, the holidays at Disney just hold such a special place in my heart.
I say this as someone who is going to the Not So Scary Halloween party next week. I'm out. Give me Very Merry over Not So Scary any day of the week, of course, during the seasonal time that it is being available. Certain things I love about the Halloween party. I love the fireworks. I think they're spectacular. I'm also saying this as someone who sees and hears them every night from my balcony, which can get a little annoying. No, I'm kidding. It's very
now
awesome.
He's just flexing.
I'm kidding.
I'm going to post Connor's address. You can all go listen to the fireworks at Connor's house.
There's a building. There's an obstructed view. I can't see all of it. I love the Gravediggers. I think the parade has so many unique aspects to it. But for everything that Lisa says, I ditto it when it comes to Very Merry. It's just a feeling. I feel much more at ease, at peace, happier. Not that I'm not unhappy during Not So Scary, but I just always prefer Christmas over Halloween. It's also nice that the treats are somewhat self-contained at Very Merry, versus Not So Scary, where I have so much chocolate that I bring back, and it's not good for anyone involved, mainly myself. Now, we want to talk about controversy. I do not like Hocus Pocus. I do not like the Sanderson sisters. So I find that stage show just the worst. So that is something I avoid like the plague when I am there. So it is, again, my personal opinions that have me saying that about.
Hold on. CONOR at vacationkingdoms.com.
Please send them my way. They eat children. What's to like about the Sanderson sisters, for criminy sake?
I will only answer this by saying my favorite party is the one that I am at. Like, when I'm at the Halloween party, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best party. I love this so much more than Christmas. And then I go to the Christmas party and I'm crying because, like, literally crying as like the toy soldier. I do it every time. It's hard for me to say because I love Halloween so much. I think it's like such a fun holiday. I don't like walking around with bags of, like, I don't like going to the Halloween party in August when it's 112 degrees out and I can't wear my Ewok costume for a multitude of reasons, and you bring home 7 bags of slightly melted chocolate. But I think the stuff that they do there, they do really, really well. But I do have probably a more. So I'm out because I think the Christmas, the Very Merry Christmas party, I think I have a more sentimental, emotional reaction to than I do the Halloween party.
Hey, you're not going to cut this up as a clip and post it where I say that I don't like Hocus Pocus, right?
Oh.
And post it on social. You're not going to do that, right?
Let
Please.
me mark this right here.
Oh no!
Let me make myself. I really we should just end it right there. All right, let me give you one more. Let me pick out one more for you guys. All right, you said you wanted one that I think you could both be in on. That I think we would all be in on. So whoever gets to go first. And this is timely too. The Hall of Presidents should be removed, rethemed, and made into a Muppet Show about American history. Are you in or are you in?
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, I'm as red-blooded as the next guy. America, USA. go baby go, but there's nothing more American than the Muppets. I mean, yeah. My thing is, let's pick a Muppet to play each president. I want to be in on that meeting.
I don't know that would fare well either.
Just the old presidents. I don't want any of the new ones. I just maybe Washington through, Who's
going to be Millard Fillmore? Who do we have? Who really sort of, is Rizzo more Millard Fillmore than?
Got to be Fozzie Bear.
Lisa?
Yeah, I'm all in. I mean, I think, we don't know anything official, but, the Muppets in studios might not be long for this world, and they do deserve a prominent place in the parks. And Hall of Presidents, we've talked about this before, Lou. I mean, it used to be like an e-ticket attraction, and that covered area outside where the market was the queue. I mean, it was a hugely popular attraction, and I think it's awesome that it had its time, but unfortunately, the political state of this country is what it is right now. And so the reality is that every 4 years, Disney kind of has to deal with, or 4 to 8 years, Disney has to deal with, some delicate subject matter for a portion of its guests. And it's, I think that ship has maybe sailed. I think the divisiveness of it at this point in this country probably doesn't need a place in the parks, and the perfect substitute is a super Sam Eagle Muppets show where they get their place in the parks. They've even had they do the Muppets sometimes from the windows above in that area, and they blend in seamlessly. I think they belong in that area. They're perfect in that area, and I think it's the perfect solution to a lot of problems, especially if we get news about 3D over in studios.
Do you mean great moments in history, but only the American one?
It's a salute to all attractions, but mostly America. Yeah, the Muppets have had a long and storied history in Walt Disney World. Actually, if you go back to show 723, I did a show about the Muppets that never were in Walt Disney World. We also did unrealized attractions. I think we've done a couple of different shows about Muppets, and you're right, it would just be sort of it's a very simple, it's very easy, it's very fun, as Magic Kingdom might be in sort of the early stages of the next phase of what it is evolving to. All right, we'll end on one more, potentially even more controversial than politics, more divisive. This is where it might get ugly, and I hope so, because it's podcast gold. This is the last question. Ladies first.
Oh, no.
Let me get a screenshot of Connor's face right now. He looks frightened.
If I move the mic down, I think you can hear my heartbeat. Yes. Oh, God.
Okay. Lisa's putting her angry face on. I packed your angry eyes.
I'm braced. Go ahead. Ask your question.
Disney's Wilderness Lodge offers the most immersive and peaceful resort experience in Walt Disney World.
This is me, right?
It is you.
So there are two resorts that duel in my mind between who does the holidays best, what has the best theming, the best overall experience, and they are Wilderness Lodge and Animal Kingdom Lodge.
So far away, God.
And what adjectives did you use? Immersive and peaceful?
Correct.
Animal Kingdom Lodge all day. I love Wilderness Lodge with all my heart. It's one of my favorite. I love Geyser Point. I love being out on the water over there. I love the way it looks in the holidays. I love the Pacific Northwest theming. I love everything about Wilderness Lodge. But if you're talking about a beautifully themed, just generally beautiful, peaceful, away from it all resort that has just the most immersive, wonderful theming in the world and some of the best food, as an aside, on all of property, Animal Kingdom Lodge all day. So I'm out on yours with respect. My humble opinion would be to put Animal Kingdom Lodge ahead of it.
Fascinating.
As someone who in September of 2022 got the awesome opportunity to go with my family to stay at the Old Faithful Inn when we were visiting Yellowstone out in the West. The Old Faithful Inn, what a lot of Wilderness Lodge is based on, in addition to other great national park lodges throughout America. Being in the real one, I only gained a greater appreciation of Wilderness Lodge. Wilderness Lodge is one of my absolute favorite resorts. My family just stayed there a couple weeks ago. I love it. It is very, very well immersive for all those themings. Peaceful. I don't know if you've been there during the hours of 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. while breakfast at Whispering Canyon is going on and people are trying to check out. I would not label it as a peaceful lobby in that regard. But what is peaceful, like Lisa said, we do agree on this, is the Animal Kingdom Lodge, and for me in particular, Kidani Village. Smaller, more intimate. I think that safari or that savannah, I should say, albeit small, expansive. You can see everything. The fire's going out there. They have rocking chairs out there, like they do at Jumbo House as well. But there's just something so serene there. And when you're walking through the halls, even though you're inside, you feel like you're in Africa outside, walking, in the bush on the savannah. So I would say for theming and for peacefulness, I would agree with Lisa. It's Animal Kingdom Lodge.
So you're both out? Is that what you're saying? You're both out on Disney.
We're both out,
Lodge.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
And speaking of being out, it was nice of you to. I hope you enjoy your last appearance on the show. As you started talking about Wilderness Lodge, Connor, I'm like, this is why Connor is my favorite guest ever. And then you ruined it. You blew it.
It's number 2. It's the second one for me.
It. Listen, I slightly respect. No, I understand the lunacy in you picking Disney's Animal Kingdom. No, I do. I get it. But for me, Wilderness Lodge, I am all in on this. I think I'm not telling you to stand in front of the check-in desk at Whispering Canyon at 9-10 a.m. and ask for ketchup or whatever it is on a Saturday morning. What I am telling you to do is to go out and walk on the dock during golden hour towards the marina where you can take a boat and watch the sunset, or go sit by Geyser Point or in front of Geyser Point and watch the electrical water pageant. Dare I say, dare. You go to the Carolwood Pacific Room and you just sit in silence, or round the corner and sit in front of that fireplace, or go to one of the quieter pools. The list goes on and on and on. I think when I go there, I do feel like I am somewhere else, even though I am in the midst of Walt Disney World. I feel there's a sense of escapism for that resort, which leads to the immersion. And there are so many places that I find are incredibly peaceful. I think the water features, especially if you walk early in the morning or late at night on your own when there's not a lot of people out, there's this sense of calm and quiet and serenity now that Wilderness Lodge gives. I don't do a lot of staycations at Walt Disney World. I just, for whatever reason, but a few years ago I did, and we only stayed, like we did not go to the parks. We just stayed there. For those of you that know me, I have a very, very tough time relaxing. It was one of the most relaxed I had ever felt on a vacation because of just how peaceful and serene and immersive that was. So I plant my flag very hard with you, Wilderness Lodge, as being the most immersive and peaceful resort experience on property. Right next to All-Star Sports during cheerleader week. That is a very close.
I have experienced that, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Now let me ask you, did the s'mores old fashioned at Territory Lounge, did that help you relax? Because it helped me relax last week when my family was there as well.
No, but I will tell you that I think Territory Lounge is one of the best, and I still haven't done the lounge show yet. I will. Because Becky would murder me if I didn't have her on it. But I think Territory Lounge is not only one of the best lounges, it's usually not very crowded, has some of the best food at any. I think Wilderness Lodge in general has some of the best overall food of like of all of the resorts, like if you in totality, I think Wilderness Lodge, from casual dining all the way up to fine dining, might have some of the best food. Period.
I would put Animal Kingdom's food up against Wilderness Lodge's food any day. I mean, there are no losers here, and I agree with you. Like, I think I can think of certainly probably three locations at Wilderness Lodge, like specific locations just to be, that are top 5, maybe top 3 for me. Like, there's Carolwood Pacific, and then there's one particular fireplace whose location I am not going to disclose right now, that I think are probably the 2 most peaceful places in all of Disney World. That being said, like, as an overall resort, and the fact that you use the word immersive as well, we had a similar vacation recently at Animal Kingdom Lodge where we stayed in a room that was on the savannah, and to sit in the morning and watch the sun come up and the animals roaming and coming out and roaming on the savannah and sort of turning in for the night. Like, there's just something so wonderfully peaceful and immersive about sitting on your balcony watching that can't be topped for me.
Even just the sunset, the overlook lounge right off the lobby. Again, especially if you go on some of the off times, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's taking nothing away. Look, Animal Kingdom has a lot going for it, due in large part to bread service. So everything else after that is just, it's great. Gravy. Everything after that is gravy. There's no wrong answers unless you selected Animal Kingdom Lodge. So that's it. That is our first Disney Are You In or Are You Out segment. I want to know from you, our friend who is listening, one, what you think of the segment, and I'll post some of these. They're not questions. I'll post some of these statements in the clubhouse at wdwradio.com/clubhouse. I would love for you to weigh in and tell me if you are in, if you are out, and why, and if you'd like me to continue doing this segment in the future. Lisa and Connor, thank you both very much for being here. Lisa and then Connor, please tell people where they can find you on the internets.
You can find me primarily at thecastlerun.com, which is my blog where I document our move to Disney and recreating a life full of magic. You can find my photography work at thousandcircles.com, and I'm on Instagram as The Castle Runner.
And you can find me over at vacationkingdoms.com, blog, podcast. We help you plan trips to Walt Disney World, Disney Cruise Line, and also the place down the street that I'm not allowed to mention on this particular podcast that has something that rhymes with Mary Motter. You can find out more. It also
has Spider-Man, so you can mention it.
Oh, it does have Spider-Man and Hulk, but not the ones you're used to. It's vacationkingdoms.com.
Probably not for long anyway, yeah.
And at Vacation Kingdoms across the social medias.
I will link to both of those on the show notes page and on the social share so people can easily find you. You guys have fun? Do you like this? Do you like this idea?
I love this.
This was so much fun. I mean, it was tough, like doing it real time live, like in front of people. But no, this was fun. This was like some of the most fun I've had recording. Like, not knowing what question was going to come was pretty cool, actually.
I mean, it sounds like you got 50 questions left too. So right. Have us back on, Marcella. Come on.
There's a few in there that I think will stir some interesting conversation, dare I say, debate, especially when it comes to a couple of topics. So this is all. Whether we do this again is dependent on you, our friend who's listening. Let me know if you enjoyed it, and we will make it happen again. I had so many questions about food, snacks, movies. We didn't even get to Disney Plus.
We didn't pick good numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's one question I literally had highlighted in a separate color. I'm like, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one that's, yeah.
You picked a couple at the end, and we didn't say numbers. You could have slid it in. Well, now you have to ask.